I give my advice all the time. Yeah.
What are your views on social issues, such as gay marriage and abortion?
Yeah, my feeling on that is I want to keep the government, at least the federal government, out of our lives as much as possible, in all aspects of our lives, whether it's our financial lives or our social lives. There's nothing in the Constitution that authorizes the federal government to have an opinion on marriage, to define marriage, to regulate on what restrictions may or may not be on abortions. These are all issues that our founding fathers left to the states. We have state governments, right? This is a federalist system. It's not that the government is dictating for all 50 states. So, as a senator, I would vote against any intrusion on states' rights. I would vote against any legislation where the federal government had no constitutional authority to legislate. So, if the government wants to spend money, they want to publicly finance abortions, well, I'm against that. I'm not going to go for it. If a state has a law and the state has a restriction on abortions and the federal government passes a law that says we want to override that restriction, I'm against it. There's the government is legislating, drugs. I don't think that's a federal issue. Where in the Constitution is the federal government saying that they can say it's illegal to smoke or grow marijuana? I mean, if Hartford wants to make it illegal, fine. But if someone is growing marijuana in their backyard and smoking it, what business is it of Washington? I mean, it's not their business. Now, if Washington wants to make it illegal to transport it across state lines, maybe they got a right to do that. If they want to say you can't import it, maybe. But where do they have a right to go into somebody's backyard and say you can't do that? Now, if the state wants to do it, that's fine. It's up to the state. And if one state wants to have marijuana legal and another state wants to have it illegal and you want to move to that state because you want to smoke pot, then move. But it's not up to the federal government to do that. I mean, it's just the government. We act as if the government can do whatever it wants. I mean, there was a recent quote of Nancy Pelosi. Somebody asked Nancy Pelosi, what's the constitutional authority for what you're doing with health care? And she laughed. She said, what, are you kidding? Like, they don't think the Constitution applies. That health care bill violated the Constitution on so many fronts. I mean, number one, the word health care doesn't appear in the Constitution. Right? They had doctors back then. People got sick back then. If the founding fathers wanted the government involved in health care, they would have written it in there. It's not there, number one. Number two, the health care bill actually mandates that you buy insurance or you get fined. Now, how can they do that? How can the government say that I have to buy the product of somebody else? Right? I mean, how can they mandate that? They can't do it. Now, they say, well, the states mandate you to buy car insurance. Yeah, that's the states. The states aren't falling under that Constitution. The Constitution has to deny the states the authority. But if you look at what the states do on insurance, the states mandate liability insurance in case you damage somebody else. They don't mandate collision. If you wreck your own car, that's fine. The federal government, they're forcing you to buy health insurance that only protects yourself. What if you don't want to buy it? And if they can force us to buy health insurance, they can force us to buy anything, once you set the precedent. And then the last thing that they did, and nobody even looks at this, they gave special deals to 2 states that were holdouts. And Nebraska and Louisiana. Now, so this bill treats people that live in those states differently. Now that violates 2 provisions of the Constitution. I think Article 4 says that the government shall guarantee that the citizens of each state have the same rights as every state. So they can't pass a bill that gives special privileges to some people. It's just blatant. I mean, it's just right there. And then, of course, there's also a constitutional principle of uniformity, that excise taxes have to be uniform throughout the United States. And uniformity is geographically uniform. So they have to apply this, but they're not. They're not applying it uniformly. They're saying it applies except here and there. But, I mean, there's no respect whatsoever for the Constitution. Every single senator and congressman, they swear an oath to protect the Constitution. I mean, do they think it means nothing? I mean, it's just an exercise? So if we simply elect people that understand the wisdom of the Constitution and the wisdom of our founding fathers, we won't be in this mess. Right? We wouldn't have the financial crisis. The government would be small. Taxes would be low. Regulations would be few. And we'd be free. And we'd be prosperous. And that's what we need to return. It's not too late. I mean, we're in serious trouble. There's no question. We squandered a generation's worth of wealth. Instead of saving our money and producing stuff like we should have done, We squandered our wealth. We spent money, we borrowed money, and we destroyed our economy. But we can rebuild it. It's possible. Capitalism is very dynamic. You know, out of the ashes of World War II, look what happened in Japan, look what happened in Germany. We're not as bad off as they were, right? Our cities haven't been bombed out. So we can come back. But we're not going to come back without capitalism. I mean, look at the difference between East Germany and West Germany. What do we want to be? East Germany never came back. Why did East Germany, suffer for 40 years? Because they were governed by the same principles that Barack Obama wants to use to govern the United States. The only difference is this group of socialists thinks that they're so smart. They're smarter than the socialists in East Germany, and they care more. And so they're going to do it right. They're going to dictate the economy from Washington. They're going to decide which businesses should succeed and which should fail. They're going to allocate capital. They're going to set prices, and they're going to make it work. They're going to succeed where all the other socialists have failed. And you know what? They're not. They're going to fail just as miserably. And it's up to the people of Connecticut maybe to send me to Washington to try to put a stop to it before it is too late. Any other questions? Anybody? All right, great. Anyway, there's a couple of flyers we have. I have a website, schiffforsenate.com, if you guys want to visit it. And my headquarters, I just opened up a couple of weeks ago in Milford. If anybody wants to stop by, anybody wants to volunteer to help, it'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.